Well, what's going on, guys? This is How I Talk. I am your host, Chris Jones.
Hey, it's Pastor T here. I'm coming to your place all the way from outer space. Hey, I might say some things today that on my mic that you may not like, but it's all right. We're going to be still friends tonight. So don't worry, guys. Don't worry.
Guys, he prepared that before he walked in. Trust me, I was behind the scenes, so he's been practicing this. But hey, today we're on part three of a high value woman. If you haven't checked it out already, go look at part one, part two. There's some things that I've said you guys probably will not agree. I've gotten some responses from people. Some people love it, some people don't like it. Either way, the indifferent.
Either way,
I love it all. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. I love it.
Love it. I just tell you like this, baby. There's a thin line between love and hate. You got to learn that. There's a thin line. So some of you may love it, some of you may hate it, but remember, there's a thin line between them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. We got the last piece of it, so I know you guys out there listening want to know, what are our thoughts on a high value woman? Well, let's go ahead and kick this off. The first one that I got on this list for part three is she is spiritual. What do I mean by that, team? Come on. What do I mean by that, Tim? What do I mean?
Oh, yes, I would agree. See, this is a good one because a woman needs to be spiritual. But listen, now your spirituality may come from different places. We may disagree or agree on that. It doesn't matter, but that's not the point. The point is that she is spiritual in some form or fashion, meaning that she sees something greater than herself. That's the point. And a lot of times women are so self-indulged, and this can be men as well. They're so self-indulged. They're so all about themselves that they don't see themselves or see anything greater than them. And so to be spiritual means there is something greater than you. There's something bigger at work. There's a greater force that is moving, or whatever you want to call it, depending on your religion or your place of worship or how you decide to do that. That's all up to you. We're not discussing that. So I do believe that they need to have some type of spirituality with them, whatever that is, so they would know that there's something greater. I agree with that. However, I think that the male should lead in that spirituality, and they need to learn to, they being a woman in the relationship context, not in life, in a relationship context. It needs to be a hierarchy there, and I guess we spoke some about that, but to learn or to know what that hierarchy is. I know women may not agree with that. They might say, well, I don't need no hierarchy. I don't even need no man. I understand. I hear you. I feel you. But this is what we're saying as far as a high value woman. The ones that don't need a man, guess what? They'll be without one. That's fine. That's the way you want to roll. I'm not mad at you. Use your tires to go wherever you want to go. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
Yeah, talk Timmy. Talk that talk.
This is how I talk, though.
So I would agree with you. I guess if we were talking about in religious terms, my background, right, is Christianity. So if I had to be more based on that, I would say we would be looking at a P31 woman, right? I think that is the embodiment.
And everybody doesn't know what P31 is.
What is that?
Proverbs 31. Okay, well, say it then. Everybody doesn't know what P31 is.
And you know where I learned that at? In church, but I also learned that in KAA. Everybody knows that, right? And summer camps in Missouri, they would always talk about a P31 woman and what that meant. So I think, what does it mean? Honestly, what we've been talking about, if you watch part one and part two, it pretty much embodies majority of the things that we're saying. It's funny that we're talking about some of these traits, but the same traits that we talk about are in the Bible, right? She has faith, right? Stewardship. She knows her gifts and what God has given her, right? She serves others, right? Those are things that are great about a woman. And I think what you had said earlier about a woman looking to a higher place or a higher being, that's huge for a woman, and especially for a man as well. A lot of people don't look up or really praise anybody else on a higher level. And I think that's huge for a woman, is that when things are rough, things are tough, she can always go down on her knees and say, I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna look up to a higher position and say, can you help me and my family to rise to the next level, or whatever's going on in their life? So that's what I would say.
I agree. Next point.
Next point. Let's transition. So next one is she has standards.
Standards. She has standards. Hey, let me tell you about this. Not all women have standards. Oh. Some women do not have standards. And let me say this. Women that have standards will break their own standards. They will. That's one thing I couldn't say I don't understand, because men are the same way. We'll sit up and break our standards. We'll say we got certain standards and then break them. Women will do that in a minute. And they do it in the context of, well, he loves me and things like that. And it's funny that you being another person or individual can look outside of that and look into it and say, why in the world would you want to be with this guy here who doesn't even meet your standards? And it may not be the standards that she's laid out. It may be something totally in an intimate setting. And they may like the things that are in an intimate setting more than they may like the standards that they have. So they may abdicate or throw out the standards that they have in order to be able to elicit or play in this intimate realm that they feel is greater than the standards. But the intimacy falls off at some point. And so you have to then go back and look at your standards. So I would tell women, hold to your standards, and then the intimacy can come. So I would say you can bring the intimacy in, but you cannot necessarily, you can't necessarily get a guy to the standard that you would want or you would like to have. So I would say to women, is maintain your standard. And they would say, well, I can't get a guy at my standard. This is what they would say, well, with my standard, I'd never get a guy. Well, I would say curb your standards to find out what they are, because sometimes you may be unrealistic. I'm not saying the guy has to make $100 million. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you have to find yourself a preset of standards that may say, I'm looking for certain things. If you're saying the guy has to be 6'3", I wouldn't necessarily say that's a standard. I would say that's a preference. Your standard may be something like, I want a man that's spiritual. That's a standard. And if he's not spiritual, then I'm not willing to break that standard regardless. And so that may be some of the things you may need to find out from the very beginning. You being a woman would need to find out from the beginning, is this guy spiritual? And if he's not, then hey, if that's my standard, then don't go for anything less in that realm. Because if you do, you can't go in with this idea that you're going to change the guy. And women go in thinking, I'm going to help change and metamorphose this guy. And it's not going to work. It doesn't work, women. Listen at me. It doesn't work. You're not going to be changing these guys. They're set in their way. They know what they're doing. They're not going to be changing. That's just the way it is.
I think the better word too is that when you're not going to change them, you can improve them though. You may not change them, but you can improve them, man. You can help them, man, be better.
So this is the home improvement show. I like that.
So I think what you said is true. I think what with women is what we come across is that women have their standards may be unrealistic though. See, on the other end of the spectrum, you got some women that have unrealistic standards. He got to be 6'5". He's got to make 150,000 or more. He's got to have this car. He's got to have a home. He's got to have all these things needed in order for this person to even look at them to date them. And I would say
the thing is, though, if he's got all of that, women, he ain't looking at you. You might, let me tell you, he ain't gonna be. He might not be looking at you. He might be looking at several. Because if you got all of that, you think about, why is he gonna just look at just you? Why?
What I said.
If you help him improve and build to that, then he's gonna look back and say, "This is my queen. She's the one that helped me." Now, I'm not saying you don't get divorces, because we live. Look at, well, they may go, look at Jeff Bezos. Bezos' wife helped build him, help him, bring him up. I would agree. And she got a hefty sum for that. She got half of everything.
Yeah, and that's starting from the bottom building up. But if you have a man that's already built up right here, He's going to say, well, how are you going to make me be further? Or you're going to have to fit in the pocket that I already have designed for where I'm at in my life. That's what I would say for a man at that level, already there. Like a Bezos already made, he's probably already got a pocket of where he wants right now.
Exactly. I would agree. That's what I'm saying. If the guy already has all these standards or already has all these things these women say, this guy is going to be saying, you got to fit in this certain pocket. Like you said, you got to have this mold about you because I've already had this preconception or pre-idea of what I want this woman to be and to look like. So then you women are going to have to change to fit in his or her or his mold or whatever it is. So
you got to fit his narrative.
You're going to have to fit his narrative. So it's not about you saying, I got this guy. No. That guy's going to tell you, you better fit this narrative or you the one going to be gone. You're going to be out the door. So you take a man and you guys help build together. And when you guys help build together, that's a totally different dynamic. That's a totally different relationship. And a lot of times women don't want to help build. They don't want to help lay the bricks and the foundation. And they'll say, well, I'm laying the foundation for some other woman. What makes you think? What makes you think he's gonna automatically leave you? That seems illogical. A man, that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but what makes you think he's just gonna automatically, once they built into something, gonna leave you? That's just not sense. Not a good guy anyway. A guy who's
and this is important, guys. I'm talking to you guys right now. Why you must be on your purpose, because a lot of women don't want to help you build. There's a lot of women that they want their end result. I want what you've already created. There are some great women. You got to find them that want to help you build from the ground up. But a lot of women say, well, I want you already to be at this level. And that's just the truth. And I think that, like I said, women have standards that may be unrealistic. And then there's some women that don't understand their non-negotiables. You got to understand what's your non-negotiables. You touched on it earlier. If you have faith, a strong faith, and spirituality is one of them, you shouldn't be looking for a man who is atheist or doesn't have a faith that is, in line with yours. If it's unequally yoked, that's what we call it in Christianity, unequally yoked. So you got to have, what are my non-negotiables? And I would recommend you ladies, make a list. Fellas, on your side, make a list too. Once you know that, you're good to go, because everybody's not going to be perfect. So you got to be saying, I can deal with this. I can deal with him being able to not make 75, he makes 65. Okay, that's fine. I can deal with him not being that tall. He can be, instead of 6'5", he can be 6'1", 6'5", as long as he treats you right, right? But what's interesting is that Tyrese, if you guys know the singer Tyrese, the actor, you probably know him in Fast and Furious. He was recently married, right? And his ex-wife actually went on Instagram describing their relationship. And it was interesting that we're talking about the narrative of a high-value man. She married a man that already had everything from a worldly perspective, everything. The money, the fame, the status, you name it, he had it all, right? She talks about, she divorced him, and she said the reason she divorced him is because it was too much access for him. Wait a minute.
Say that again. She divorced him because it's too much access for him?
Too much access. She said when you're dating a man like that, he's got too many options. Yeah. And I don't like that. He has too many options. And on top of that, being in the limelight is not what you think. And you know what? A lot of ladies want to be in the limelight. They think being up there with the highest status man because of his role or who he is going to make them feel like they're somebody. When in reality, this lady's basically saying she felt like she was somewhere that she was not happy, basically.
No, she felt like she was nobody. She felt like she was nobody because he got too many options.
And she said, what she also said is, she said when she was there, she didn't really have the option to determine how the relationship or marriage would go. It was either his way or the highway. Why? Because that's how it's been since he's been famous. Why should the narrative switch? There's so many other people that, again, will fit his pocket. Okay, you don't want to work with it? Well, guess what? I got 100 other people, women waiting in line that will fit my narrative. And guess what? Those women will also realize they may not be happy, but there will be some women that say, I'll fit that narrative.
Yeah, I'll just sit here. I'll sit in the pocket. It'll be somebody. Yeah. That's why I said, ladies, if you got if your narrative is saying, or your what are you looking for has all this money, fame, and all of that, I'm saying you're making a mistake, because he will bring you in and drop you off in a minute because there's 100 more lined up beside you. So what's gonna make you any different? You're not gonna trust me. You're not gonna be that great and that special to a guy who already has everything. You're just not.
And don't think your assets is gonna keep a man. Some women, I've heard women say, it's because of the way I look. They love what I got going on here, and the sheets is going great. Don't think that's gonna keep a man. Please don't get fooled by it. And what happens is women will remove their standards because of what they see as far as status and power. People will go to status and power. It happens on man's side, women's side, in a lot of different arenas. They will go to that. But what happens is they realize once they get in that arena of status and power, they realize that is not for me. I realize all the negative connotations with it. And that's basically what Tyrese's ex-wife is alluding to. She's saying, I was great, but
I would say take a man that wants you, because when they want you, they'll do everything they can to keep you. They'll do everything they can to move along with you, to work with you. I would say if a man says he really wants you, you better turn your head around and go, you know what? I might want to listen. I'm telling you right now, when a guy tells you he wants you, you better listen, because he'll do anything and just about to keep you. He will.
And you know what, old school? I think, you know what, that's a good thing that you said right there, because I think we need to have a conversation for the ladies of how do you know when a man really wants you? How do you know? What are some signs that a man really wants you?
Women know when a man really wants them. And a lot of times they shun the guys who really want them. See, the ones that really want them, they shun them and go after the guys that really don't want them.
Why is that?
And then that guy does them wrong and he misuses them. Then they kind of want to go back, try to find the guy that want him. Well, he don't want them no more.
It's too late.
That's what happened. You should, you better understand when they want you, you better listen. You better turn around, quit going the wrong direction, turn back and say, listen, I know you want me. And when a guy wants you, he'll do everything he can to keep you. He will try to make you happy as can be.
And that's what, you know what? And that goes back to standards, though, the preferences, right? Because sometimes they want the bad boy, they want the height, they want the looks. And this guy over here may treat you right. He may not have the best looks. He ain't maybe necessarily ugly. I mean, you still got to have standards in that way. He may not be the tallest. He may be, 5'8", maybe 6 foot. He may not be your 6'5", right? But I mean, this guy is going to treat you right for the next 40, 50 years of your life and make sure that the marriage is stable and happy.
And you might want to think that through, ladies. You end up on the sidelines a lot. You might want to think it through. What's the next one?
Let's go to the next one. All righty. Next one is she communicates effectively and respectfully.
Now listen, this one, ladies may not like it. Ladies, you may not like it. But communication is very key. Now, he said respectfully. Some of you ladies can really be harsh in the tone in which you communicate. And ladies would, hey, you guys too can be harsh with the way you communicate. And I agree. This is a two-way street. And I think this is something that has to be learned on both sides. And it could be that it needs to be started by the man, or maybe it's started by the lady. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you got to work this thing out. And the communication that you guys have should be effective. And the communication should be also one that's not combative, one that creates a lot of animosity. And the way we say things, the way it comes out, can sometimes create a combative atmosphere. And it may be, if we're twitching our heads, wagging our fingers, all of that type of thing can create an animosity or an atmosphere in which we have to defend ourselves, we being guys. And the same, if guys does this type of thing to a woman, the same thing. I can see the same thing holding true on both sides. So it's really hard to say this is all set on the women. I'm not saying it's all set on you, but what I'm saying is that we got to learn how we communicate toward one another and to make sure it's respectful in a manner that doesn't disgrace the person you're with or somehow embarrasses them, because this can happen. I tell you all the time, I've seen when my wife and we were on a cruise ship, this woman, she was berating this guy as we were getting ready to get on the cruise ship. But I mean, just going after him, hitting him and calling him names. And all of this is done in public where everybody can see. And I was sitting there thinking, see, if the guy does that to the woman, everybody around here would get all upset. Everybody would say, you couldn't treat that woman that way. But the woman was doing this to the guy all in public, and women were like, no problem. Men were like, oh, well, and you were looking at this scene unfold, and you're wondering, do we have a double standard in life that women can really behave a certain way in public and pretty much get away with it? They can behave almost outrageously with a guy in public and pretty much get away with it. They can berate them. They can call them names. They can yell at them. They can even hit on them and move off. And nobody around there call the police. But let a guy do that to a woman. Oh, the police coming. The women are going to gather around him. They're going to tell their husband or significant, you need to help them. It's going to be stuff like that. But I'm telling you, it's how we communicate and talk to one another. And that's important. It's important.
Yeah. So, we all know in business, effective communication is huge. Same thing goes in relationships. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper for this one because, when you look at from a woman's perspective, looking at a man, they'll say, look at the way the man treats his mother. And that should tell you how the man would treat a woman. Look at how the man treats his mother. That will teach you how a man treats his woman. You've heard those sayings before.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, ladies, you need to look at how this man treats his mother. If he treats his mother well, guess what? He'll probably treat you well. So you want to probably observe how he is and how he behaves around his mother. How does he communicate with her? If he's communicating with her in a loving fashion, in a respectful way, guess what? He'll probably turn and communicate with you. And the way he interacts with those women will let you know exactly what type of guy this is. So you should observe those things. If he's harsh to his mother, think about what he's going to be to you. If he's coming at her, guess what? He's going to come at you. And he's going to come at you a lot harder because this is the woman that gave birth to him. And if he doesn't respect her, think about how he's going to do you. And you need to think about those things and watch those things. So tell me, what's our last one? What's the last one on the docket, Mr. Chris?
Well, let me add also, too, with communication is the fact that we also need to talk about the way that women have conversations, right? I think profanity is huge, right? The way that they converse with the family members, right? How do you talk to your siblings? How do you talk to your mother? How do you talk to your father? How do you talk to your friends? These are things that we're looking at because I want to know, how can you convey your thoughts? See, in this modern world, people want to overlook that and say, it doesn't matter anymore. Those standards are out the window. That's old school. But I think it's important because I think your lack or your inability to be able to speak without having to curse every other sentence is alarming. I'm not saying you can't curse. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you have to curse in order to get effective thought out there, I think that's a red flag. It's alarming.
Yeah, I agree.
B this, A this, S this, you just flip it out. And when I look around and I'm saying we're going to be in a meeting or we're going to be around people that are going to be high value or professionals, when I bring you into that setting, right? Because you got to think about it. If you're a high value woman, you want to be with a high value man, he's going to be in those type of settings. You can't be going in there speaking like that. You know why? Because it's going to be a reflection of him. And the last thing he wants is a reflection that is negative or inaccurate. All you're going to do is make him look less than or incompetent.
Yeah, I would say that's actually any setting you bring her in. You don't want to have her cussing, and I don't think cursing looks good on a woman anyway. So if women curse, it's probably a red flag right there. Hey, get out, guys. If she's cursing and carrying on, hey, bail quick, because that's the way your life gonna be with her. I'd bail. I'm out. I'm going. You are on another plane, baby. You're on another level. And I don't want to be on that level.
Yeah.
What's the last?
Next point, which is the last one we got for you guys, and that is she has a motherly nature.
Oh,
nothing like that.
You know what? When you talk about a motherly nature, matter of fact, I really think that that's something inherent in all women. I think most or just about all women have this nature that is a nature that wants to have a motherly compassion with them. I think it's just natural, but I hate it when it's done to me. I don't like to be mommy, and some women like to mommy you, and I don't like to be mommy. Hey, I ain't your boy. I'm not your child. Don't do me that way. Do your children, but be careful on trying to do your spouse, or your significant other, because they may not like it only in certain settings, but they may not like it all the time. They may not want to be mommied all the time. And sometimes they can kind of go overboard. And what you do, I think, what women, I think, have to be careful, because a lot of times the women that are strong, they tend to be motherly nature and overtake sometimes the guys. And what it creates is a guy who becomes dependent upon her more so than her being dependent upon him. And they may say, well, we're in a new era, new relationship styles, and I may want my man dependent on me. Okay, that's fine. But you got to understand, he's not going to be an alpha. There's not an alpha guy that's going to be wanting to be mothered. And it's not an alpha guy that's going to be wanting or wanting to be under your bosom, so to speak. That's not the type of guy, that's going to be going for that. It's not going to be a high value guy. It's just not going to be that case. It's going to get a beta guy. You're going to get a guy that is willing to submit and submerge himself underneath you in order to be able to be all that you want him to be. And if that's the kind of guy you want, hey, that's fine. You want to.
Can you define that when you're saying that, though? When you say being overly motherly to their spouse, can you define what you mean by that for people out there?
Yeah, I mean, always saying, well, baby, let me do like the kids do. You got your rain boots on. You got your glasses. You know it's gonna rain today. You need to put on a long sleeve. And here's your clothes. Wear these. And they're gonna say, hey, you know what? I like it sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I like it, but I don't like it all the time. Just every now and then, don't give it to me all the time.
Lord knows if you dress yourself. I mean, look at you there right now. Oh no, boy,
she helped me get dressed, but I was like, hey, this can't be no everyday thing now. You might want to help me match up something, but hey, don't be trying to tell me how to dress every day. Don't be, if you're trying to tell me stuff every day, I'm gonna look at it as you trying to tell me stuff, and I don't like that. I'm not gonna let you tell me anything. But you can. So there's this fine line with it, and they just gotta be able to walk it and understand.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, especially balance, because it can be overbearing on a man, especially when, like you stated earlier, an alpha mentality. He doesn't want to hear all the time about what needs to be done or what you're looking out for you and make sure everything's done. That's going to be in his nature as well, to make sure that everything's done. As an alpha man, they're naturally going to be that way too. On the opposite side, just like a woman is inherently motherly natured, it's going to be on the opposite for a man. So I think for motherly is that she has a component of wanting to be caring and caring for her children and taking care of the people around them. Now, you may hear, I think, especially in this modern world, when I don't even want kids no more. I don't care about kids. It's not a big deal. It could be, I don't know. The reason is it could be maybe focus on career. Maybe it's just a personal reason why they don't want children. Nothing wrong with that if you don't want children, but I think a lot of it's saying in a manner where I don't want kids. Why would I want kids in a negative way? And I think the truth is once they have a child, they'll realize that having a child, this is everything and anything that I always wanted right there.
Yeah.
Is having that child give them birth. And they realize the importance of bringing a child in, especially when they're carrying it for 9 months. But you do see a lot of modern women saying that they don't want that happening. They ain't worried about having kids. They can wait. They can delay that.
Yeah. And the moment they have a kid, they love them to death. I'm telling you, nothing like it. I mean, it's wild when you have them. It was wild when we had you. It was crazy, but you learn to love them regardless of all the stuff they do, and whether or not they're a good host or not. You still learn to love them regardless. So
see, but that's a red flag right there for a man, is when a woman is saying, "Hey, I don't want no kids. I'm not interested in kids." But look, a man wants to create a family.
Typically he does, and then women would say, yeah, but he want to create 5 families. Family with this woman, with that one. Yeah, but I'm not saying that. There are some men a lot of men that are not like that. A lot of men are okay with just having one family, and you just got to find the right one. And there are a lot of men that are dogs that want to run around and create several families, and they're out there too. So you just got to be able to sift through that and be able to understand, hey, what is it I'm getting? What is it that I'm getting in this guy? And women, you have to be protective of yourself, because These guys, if you pick the wrong one, that you'll be with child by yourself, and you're trying to do this thing on your own. So you have to be selective and very careful on whom you allow into your circle.
And to piggyback on that is definitely understanding that you need to look at actions, not words. Look at action, not words, because you know what? People wear a lot of these, and that's faces. People put on 10 different faces because we're in 10 different rooms. And every room that they're in, they can switch and transition to fit your narrative or your script because they can listen to what you want. Well, if they're wearing different faces, you're going to think that this is the ideal man that you want. They say, talk a great game, but what do their actions actually say? Because they should go in line with one another. And if they don't, red flags, let it back up, realign,
back up,
reassess.
And I don't think ladies necessarily listen. Let me say that I don't think they pay attention necessarily at times to what guys do, because they're looking at what they do and they're not paying attention to what they say. They'll listen more to what they say than actually what they're doing. Because I'm going, this guy does absolutely nothing. I'm looking at some relationships and I'm going, this guy does nothing. He doesn't, he's not really working. He really works part-time. He doesn't consistently hold a job. He's not really taking care of the kids. He's playing these dumb games all the time. And you're up there accepting all of that. Just look at what he's doing. Look at it. That means he's not helping you. So why are you accepting this? Well, it may be the only man. No, it's not the only man you can get. It's not the only man. You just got to change your circle and the type of guys you're looking at. You may be in the wrong room. Go to another room, and it'll be some men in there that like you in another room. You just got to go to the right rooms. You just in the wrong rooms. That's all. So I would encourage them. Hey, take a look, like you said. Watch the behavior. Watch what they do. Don't listen at the word. The words will sound good. Everybody can talk a good game. Listen at us on how to talk. We just talk. We can be talking a good game.
And we do, baby. We do as well. But let me say this too as well, because what a woman does as well, laying in bed with a man, also can construe their mind. And the reason I say that is because a woman can fall in love with potential instead of what is actually in front of them. They think potential, I could see where he's going. But like you said earlier, you can't change a man. Take him for what he is now and see if he's actually making steps to improve his life.
Yeah.
Right. He may not necessarily always get there. Right. But if he's in the transition of trying to improve his life, if he's around the right network of friends, look at who his friends are. That's another thing. Show me your friends and I'll show you your lifestyle. I'll show you what you're worth. And I can tell you who you are. So if you see him, look at what his friends are, because you'd be a fool to think that his friends and him don't do the same thing. Oh, they definitely do. They definitely in accordance with one another.
Yeah, they do.
But trust me, 3 dummies hang out with one another. Who's the 4th dummy? If you're going to be the 4th one, you hang out with.
I like that. Dummy.
So you hang around millionaires, you become one. So what you become around is what you become. What you're around is what you do become. But that's all I got to say. Tim, you got anything to say?
That's it, boy. I think we wrapped them up. I hope, ladies, you enjoyed this.
It's
a great podcast. You should listen at us. We got a lot of things to say. I'm looking forward to us coming back to you again.
All right, guys. Well, hey, you already know I'm the star of the show. I'll make this thing go. I'll make it poppin' and make it interesting. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Look at the part 1, part 2, and we will see you guys next week.